Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans, college club football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show, and got a special guest on. I've been promising him, not just promising him, I've been trying to get him on, trying to figure out, and then I always forget because James Grega, I'm 70 now. I can now claim that as one of my reasons du jour. But James Grega, the head coach of the incredibly successful Ohio State club football team. Welcome finally to the Tim May Show.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Been looking forward to this for a while, so
Yeah.
really appreciate you having me on.
Well, this is one of those shows I kind of record in advance, ladies and gentlemen. So kind of helped me through the month of May, during which the Indianapolis 500 is in different forms of being contested. And James was gracious enough to come on, and I've been wanting to have him on for a while though, because I've got to be just truth in advertising, as I like to say, which really makes no sense why I say it like that. But we're sitting there at football games way back when he was a correspondent for, who was that? One of those .coms. Who was it, James?
I did Buckeye Sports Bulletin and 11 Warriors at one point. So
Yeah, so I don't know which one it was, but it was an iteration of James Grega then, and he knew football. Truth be told, most of the sports writers sitting up in the press box watching football games don't really know football, at least like James Grega does. And so when I finally figured this out, I definitely hovered over. Do you remember me sort of like paying more attention to you at that point, James? Huh?
A little bit towards the end, by the time I was just about getting out. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I know, but I just was intrigued by it because football, and I like to talk football with guys. But lo and behold, he became a head coach, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what he's getting paid per year. Are you in that? Are you in that 6 to 9 million realm yet?
I'm in that zero figure realm right now, Tim. But we're working our way up.
Well, the good thing is April 15th, you don't have to worry about anything in terms of taxes. So I can see where you're going on that regard. But yeah, highly successful head coach of the Ohio State club football team, and we're going to tell you all about what that's about in a minute. But you've been that head coach for what, 5 or 6 seasons? I can't remember, James.
Yeah, we're going on year 6. I got the job just before the 2018 season kicked off, so we're going on year 6.
So year 6, but season 5, right? Am I right about that? Because obviously
we did not play during COVID.
COVID wiped it out in 2020, like it wiped out a lot of things. But I digress. Bottom line is highly successful. Has won 2 national championships. How many more have you played for? I'm trying to think in that span, or played up.
Played for 4. We've played for 4 and won 2.
Yeah. See, people are out for you. How come you didn't win them all, man? I mean, Ohio State fans, you know how they are. But
not kidding.
But James, number one, just introduce sort of yourself, what you're all about, but mainly what the Ohio State club football team is all about in a nutshell.
Yeah, so when club football started at Ohio State, it was founded in 2009 by a handful of students who, missed the game. They were at Ohio State. They wanted to stay involved in some capacity in football, but they wanted to be more competitive than what intramurals and flag football are. But they still wanted to go to Ohio State, get the big school experience, but they still wanted that competition. So they founded the team in 2009. I think they started playing games in late 2009, and then had their first real big season in 2010. And I was lucky enough when I was in school here to play for 2 seasons in 2012 and 2013. And it's kind of evolved since then. It's evolved from, again, just a group of guys who didn't want to give up the game to now where we're at a point where we're recruiting as much as we possibly can with, again, all volunteer coaches, and playing some Division III competition at the JV level, but playing some NCAA competition, some teams that are kind of on that NJCAA level. So it's really kind of evolved over the years. But, like I said, I got involved as a player in 2012 and 2013. And as you already mentioned, became a sports writer for about 5 seasons, and then really felt the tug to coach more full time. So I went and got a higher ed communications and marketing job so I could stay writing and pay the bills. But was lucky enough to be offered the head coaching job for the club program in 2018. And it's been really exciting to kind of see where we've built it to now, where we started when I took over. I think we had a roster of about 20 to 25 guys. And I think right now we've got about 45 committed players for next season. We're hoping to get to the league threshold of 50, so we have as much depth as possible. But it's been really exciting to see the team grow and how it's progressed over the years.
Yeah, and Ohio State football, Mark Pantoni, Ryan Day, keep your hands off his players, right? I mean, isn't that your motto now? Keep your hands off. I mean, you've got at least two guys who've been basically, for one of another term, are going to be preferred walk-ons on the Ohio State football team this year. Am I right?
Yeah, two guys from last year's team, Glorian Goff and Zach Hayes. A lot of it has to do with where they played their high school ball. Glorian is from Mater Dei, which, as everybody knows, is one of the premier programs in the country for high school football. And then Zach went to Nazareth Academy in Chicago, which Ohio State fans, unfortunately, will know the name J.J. McCarthy. That's where J.J. McCarthy played 3 of his 4 years of high school ball. So both kids came from very prominent high school programs, so they were coached well. They were taught the game very well. They were developed there. But we were lucky enough that both kids, they had dreams of walking on here at Ohio State. And, at this time last year when they were paying their admissions fees and things, Ohio State didn't have space for them. So, they kind of reached out to us, and we reached out to them and said, hey, come play for us, stay fresh, get some tape. And, if a spot opens up next year, we'll help you make that jump. I mean, ultimately, that's what we're about, is to provide kids with the opportunity to get whatever they want out of this. Whether it's, we've got kids like Zach and Glorian who are now going to be Division I football players. And then we've got kids at the other end of the spectrum who maybe didn't play high school football because either their parents wouldn't let them, or they come from a really small school and their school didn't offer football. So we've got a really wide range of talent on our team. But yeah, I mean, it's super exciting to see Zach and Glorian get this opportunity, and to see two kids that could have gone elsewhere, like D2 or D3 programs, and been stars, but to see them bet on themselves and to get this opportunity for Ohio State is really special.
By the way, bet on yourself. I think that's still illegal in Major League Baseball and football, but that's another story. That was a euphemism. You used a euphemism there. And those two guys, what do they both play?
I know Glorian's a DB. He played strong safety for us last year. Zach, for us, was a wide receiver and safety. I think Ohio State wants to put a little bit of weight on Zach and maybe move him a little more inside the box, but on defense. But they're probably both going to play defense for Ohio State. For us, though, Zach was our leading receiver in terms of receptions last year. When he was at Nazareth Academy in Chicago, he played receiver, DB, and was their kicker as well. So super multi-dimensional guy, super talented. And then Glorian, really athletic defensive back, a guy, again, who was at Mater Dei, one of the best, if not the best high school program in the country. So two super talented kids.
Absolutely. Let's backtrack a little bit so people can understand some things. Number one, you were offered the job of head coach of the Ohio State club football team. Who is the person or people who offered it?
So it's a combination, but primarily the players. There are, with the club sports, there is like a club sports admin who kind of oversees the coaching staff. So they had a little bit of say in it, and they had a little bit of input, but primarily with club sports at Ohio State, ultimately the administrative decisions like that are made by the student leadership. And, my predecessor, who I had been an assistant for, was struggling a little bit, and the players felt that they wanted to make a change to be able to sustain the strength of the program. And so they made that move right before the 2018 season. It was kind of unconventional in the timing, but so that first year was just about building and kind of surviving. And then that 2019 offseason, when I had my first offseason to kind of build, is where we kind of took off. But it was primarily student leadership with a little bit of the club sports leadership that went into making that decision.
And plus, I think probably your agent made it obvious that you were available, right? And
Right.
just kind of like, in case you're ever in need. It was really funny because all of a sudden you weren't covering Ohio State anymore, and I was kind of bummed about it. But
well, I'll tell you,
by the way, I'm serious about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you who wasn't super excited about it was my former boss and someone you'll know well, Frank Moskowitz, because that year in 2018, I was my first year as head coach. I was doing both. I was trying to cover Ohio State and be the head coach of the club program.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of running around and a lot of just kind of surviving. That was a really busy fall for me, but luckily now I'm in a better space in kind of higher ed communications, where I'm able to do that at a high level, but also be able to coach the team, which even though we're not paid, I treat it very much like a full-time job.
I'm sure you do, brother. I'm sure when you're sitting, by the way, what is your regular job?
So now I work in marketing and communications at the College of Arts and Sciences at Ohio State. When I originally left the beat, I went to the Moritz College of Law, and I was there for three and a half years. But now I'm at the College of Arts and Sciences doing marketing and communications for them.
I mean, I never heard of a cosmopolitan man who was able to still stay in football in almost every part of his life, which is kind of what you do. Because I know when you're sitting there at your desk, uh, during the day, you're doodling. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you're not doodling ads for the College of Art and Sciences. You're doodling a flood left. Basically bring this guy back right, which is we'll talk about that in a minute. Kind of pass play or something, but it is on your mind 24/7, isn't it?
Oh, it doesn't stop. I was just the other day. I'm sure you've seen it. They're doing a lot of recruiting showcases across Columbus right now for high school programs.
Yeah.
Obviously when I'm on work hours, I can't go to the afternoon ones, but for example, the other day, St. Francis de Sales, which is a great program here in Columbus. They had their showcase at 6 a.m. I was there. It's before work hours. So I was there with one of my assistant coaches going to that. And then after work hours on Monday, Westerville North and South had their showcases. Went straight from work to try to go there and recruit some players. So yeah, I mean, it's I love my job at Arts and Sciences, but football is where the heart is. No question about it.
By the way, have y'all offered RJ Day yet?
Yeah, I think a little over our head, but he looked good. He looked good.
Really? I mean, he really is. I keep reminding his dad when I first met him. I think he was like what we'd have been 10 years old. No, he'd been
Something like
younger
that.
than that. And I
Yeah.
remembered he was in the background of a video where they had a magician, one of those like during preseason camp, they had a magician entertaining everybody, and this magician did some trick, and RJ went, it was like, and I reminded him his dad of that because now that kid, every time you look up, he's getting better and better, man. And
I'll tell you
when
what,
you when you
watching his
started
footwork,
DeSales as a freshman, I don't
that's
care who
great.
your dad is. That's hellacious, right?
Just watching him in the drills, his footwork is almost immaculate.
Yeah.
For a kid who hasn't even started his sophomore year yet, his footwork as a quarterback is as close to perfect as you can get for a kid that age. So really, really impressive young kid. It was cool to watch him.
Well, that segued into my next question is I can understand where you can find some guys who just weren't finally quit growing, but were still really good linemen who would
Yeah,
want to still keep playing in club football. Cause when a lot of guys hit that 6 foot cutoff, you know what I mean? But
right.
they're still nasty and they're still big and they can still move around. I can see where you can find wide receivers. I used to throw a ball to a kid who worked in the maintenance department at Ohio State at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I used to write in their department back there, their garage, and we became buddies. His name was DeWolf. That guy he could jump 6 feet off the ground, and we'd go into Woody Hayes and I'd throw him passes, and he would kick some. He ended up being a free agent kicker and kicked for the Buffalo indoor team way back when, and of course broke his foot in his first game, and that was that. But my point is, there's a lot of guys running around that can do those kind of things that are still pretty good. But where do you find a quality quarterback?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny how it worked out. So my first year in 2018, we didn't really have one. When I took over just a couple weeks before the season started, and we had a kid who was athletic. And I mean, you'll know this from watching high school games. If you don't have a true quarterback, you put your best athlete there and you let him work. So it just so happened my first day as head coach, that same day, a young man who you've interviewed by the name of Kellen Garenstein reached out to us.
Yeah.
And he was a freshman on campus and said, "Hey, heard about club football, heard it's full contact. What do I have to do to join?" I said, "Come to practice tonight. We'll see you there." And he was our quarterback for 4 seasons, won league MVP twice, won 2 national championships, interned for Mark Pantoni, and now he's the director of high school recruiting at Boston College for Bill O'Brien. So we had him for 4 years, which was fantastic. I can't speak enough to how great he is as a kid, as a human, and then
Oh
obviously
yeah.
as a football player. And then this past season, we had a kid by the name of Spencer Moore, who is one of my favorite stories because he never played a down of high school football. He had played a little league, but in high school, I think it was Lakota East, one of the Lakota schools. He was a golfer, and he golfed for 4 years, and then he got to school. And it was one of those situations where parents didn't let him play high school football, and he said, "Hey, I'm in college. This is my last opportunity to do this. I'm going to do this." And for 3.5, 4 seasons, he was a quarterback, but he was behind Kellen, who was our all-star, our guy. So he's like, well, what do I have to do to play? And I said, well, we really need a tight end. And so he added 15 pounds and he played tight end for us for 2 years. And then took some graduate level classes last year because he finally had the opportunity to be the guy. And Kellen was more of a dual threat guy, could really run, make guys miss. Spencer is very traditional pocket passer, so we tweaked some things in the offense. We were a little more run pass option rather than traditional read option. But all Spencer did was break the league record for touchdown passes. I think was 7 yards off of the league record in passing yards, and led us back to the national championship and won a conference title. And so, this year we've actually got a kid by the name of Nico Pappas, who was an all-state quarterback at Avon High School up near Cleveland.
Yeah.
Played 2 years at Baldwin Wallace, and then transferred here to Ohio State. So, we've been very blessed to find some good quarterbacks, and there's always usually a few on campus. It's just a matter of recruiting them and getting them to come out and play for us.
By the way, quick anecdote: when Jim Trustle's dad was the head coach, Lee Trussell was the head coach at Baldwin Wallace in Berea. His primary focus, because Division III, his primary focus was looking at quarterbacks, high school quarterbacks, and high school linebackers. Meaning, a linebacker, you might recruit linebackers who could turn into defensive backs or grow up and be defensive linemen. You know what I mean? And quarterbacks, is if they kept growing, they could be, but this is Division III, they could be running backs, wide receivers, and possibly grow into tight end and or offensive line guys, because they were usually, those two were the best players on their teams, but they were 6 feet tall or something, like I was talking about the 6 foot rule, but they were still hellacious football players. And it's like you just said, this is that little catch-all for guys who have the love of the game, have talent for the game, don't necessarily have the size for the game, but may still keep growing, right? And you're exploiting that. That's it, nutshell, isn't it?
I mean, the thing about Kellen, if he was 3 inches taller, he would have been a Division I quarterback.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
was just 5'9". He just didn't have the height to do it. And then Spencer didn't have the high school experience. But you got him on the football field. He was very natural as a passer. It was just a matter of teaching him the concepts, teaching him, making sure he's going through his progressions and reading a defense and learning a playbook. And he was very coachable. So once he knew it up here, I mean, it was just he was fine. He had all the physical tools. He's 6'2", really, really strong arm. Just had to learn the X's and O's part of the game. And so, that's, and again, we've got guys who, we talked about Zach and Glorian already. We've got, guys with D1 talent and guys who've never played. But if you find those guys who have, like you said, Tim, guys who have the athletic ability, and they're coachable, then, they're going to be able to play and be really successful for us.
Well, what's the toughest thing for you to find? Is it offensive lineman?
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah. Almost always it's offensive lineman. Like you said, we're almost always set at receiver. DB, every now and then, receivers is, you got to be technically sound, but DB is kind of a, when we get into the really good competition, if you don't have the right technique, you don't have the right footwork, you'll be cooked. But definitely offensive lineman is the hardest position for us to find year in and year out. And so that's really the position that we recruit the hardest, because there's always kids. Like when the team was first building and first started, you just recruited campus. You just recruited the kids that were in the RPAC, in the Jesse Owens facilities. You just recruited there. Now that we've evolved enough to now we're going to these camps, and we're kind of, you build in the trenches first, as it's a cliche for a reason. That's where you win games, in the trenches.
Oh, yeah.
And then kind of build out from there, because there's always going to be athletic kids at Ohio State that you can teach receiver and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Never, ladies and gentlemen, never mistake 7-on-7 for real football.
Right.
Because the linemen are what make real football, offensively and defensively, as you pointed out. I'm just wondering if, like the RPAC or something, some of those kids were going, why's that guy got a stopwatch over there and eyeballing me? Why's that guy eyeballing me?
Well, that's where we rely on our students to do the on-campus recruiting, and then our coaches kind of handle the off-campus
Spread the word.
high school recruiting.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, you touched on a bunch of things here. I don't mean to keep you, but I'm going to. What league are y'all in?
We're in the National Club Football Association, also founded, I believe, in 2009, and we've been a member since 2012, I believe was our first year. Every year it's kind of fluctuated depending on how many teams were in the league. I think we've had as many as 30. I think this year we're closer to 20. The pandemic knocked out a lot of teams just financially. It can be really hard to keep sustain a club program financially, especially at the smaller schools. It's frankly, it's always surprised me that there's not more club programs across the country. We are only one of, I think, 5 club programs that have a parent program, of an NCAA varsity program. The majority of the schools in our league, their club program is their school's only football program. The best example I can give is Wright State down the road in Dayton. They're in our conference. They do not have a varsity sponsored football team, so their club team is their school's football program.
Wow.
And it's just kind of surprising to me that there's not more of them around. I know financially, they can be kind of hard to get off the ground, but once you build momentum, and Wright State's been around as long as we have, and they do a great job. But the only other teams in our league that have a parent NCAA program, I think Michigan State, Toledo, and Sacred Heart, actually,
Oh, really?
which they're FCS and they have a club program. So I think they're the only ones other than us that have a parent program. So a lot of the schools that we're seeing in our league, they are their school's football program.
Yeah, what's really funny is that what was it, 1890 was the first year of Ohio State football, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, somewhere in that general framework. And that was a club football team, like 11, 12 guys. Hey, we heard Michigan's playing football or so-and-so's playing
Yeah.
football. Let's get ourselves up a team and bring that basketball looking thing with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Tim, I could talk club football for hours. So if anything, I'm keeping you because I could talk. I could talk about
I mean, I'm intrigued by this. That's why I've been wanting to have you on,
Yeah.
wanting to be with you, because I wanted to devote a full, what do you call a full clip to this thing. I wanted to ask you this though. Are there rules, is there some kind of rule situation from the standpoint of recruiting or, that guidelines, like the NCAA has guidelines for,
Right.
obviously, as you well know, for major college football, basketball,
Mhm.
etc. Are y'all operating under any kind of like guidelines like that other than the rules of football, which is different from what I'm talking about?
Not particularly, no, because again, for the most part, a lot of the club programs don't have paid coaches. All of us at Ohio State are volunteer. So for us, we don't really have the time to recruit full time in the off season like an NCAA program or an NAIA program because they're paid to do that. I have to do my day job for 8 hours a day. So there's really no recruiting regulations on us, which helps us a little bit. But again, the majority of the recruiting that we're doing is against D2 and D3 NCAA programs. Obviously, we're not going to compete very much for guys with D1 offers or even D1 walk-on offers. So a lot of the guys we're going after are guys who have D2, D3 talent, but they want maybe the smaller school that they're considering doesn't offer their preferred major, or they want the big school experience, but obviously want to continue to play football.
Yeah.
Those are really the kind of kids we're going after. But in terms of restrictions on, dead periods and things of that nature, there's not that at the club level, which kind of gives us a leg up on some of those kids. But really, I mean, we're all doing our day job, so we're recruiting, in our free time. So it really kind of evens out.
Yeah, you've got 8 hours of dead period
Yeah, right.
every day. So
Right.
That is if you're showing up for work
Right.
or working at home. I'm working at home today, sir.
Yes.
Get that clip back. By the way, when you said bring some tape or get some tape, these guys don't have to bring their own. They don't have to supply their own supplies, do they? How do y'all do supplies wise?
Yeah, so actually the players do have to provide the majority of their own equipment. We were fortunate enough that Ohio State's varsity program donated some shoulder pads to us this past
I was going to
offseason.
ask you. Yeah.
So they were really kind to do that. So we've got shoulder pads for everybody. But obviously the big expense is helmet. I mean, a good quality brand new helmet's going to run you $500 plus, depending on, where you go and if you buy new or versus used, and then if you got to get it painted, that sorts of things. So it's a big commitment for our kids. I mean, you've really got to love football to play for us, because not only do you have to provide the majority of your own equipment, you've got to pay to play every year so that we can afford to travel. And this year we've got at least one overnight road trip we're going to go have to go out to the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. And that's about an 8-hour trip. So that'll be, get in Friday night, play the game Saturday. I think it's a Saturday night kick. So we're going to have to stay, leave
2
Sunday
nights.
morning.
Yeah.
The national semifinal is usually an overnight trip, although we were fortunate enough last year. The league semifinal was in the Glass Bowl up in Toledo. So we didn't have to stay overnight. We could just kind of do that in a day. So that saved us a lot of money. And then the national championship game is usually just outside of Pittsburgh, where league headquarters are. So, you know, our kid, you got to love it. And you do have to answer your question, you do have to provide the majority of your own equipment. But in addition to that, there's usually a pay-to-play fee of around $300. We try to keep it as low as we can. But, to be able to stay in a hotel, to be able to provide the buses or the vans that we have to take to go to those out-of-state games, that's kind of what it takes. But if you love ball, you're going to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
I did as a player. So
Officials, you got to pay for officials, right? I mean,
yep, we got to pay officials to work our home games too. So that's another, 600-700 hours per home game. So
and y'all generally play your home games. Like you and I were talking about before we started, you play your home games on basically the Tibittles,
Yep.
the best damn band in the land's practice field over there south of the stadium, right?
Yep, right by Buckeye Grove there by Lincoln Tower Park is where we play all of our home games and where we practice. So luckily there is the tower there where we can film, get a good bird's eye view for film. Because I mean,
Hey, who's that in that window? How do you know it's
Yeah.
not Michigan's getting? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But luckily we can film and get these kids tape so that if they do have aspirations of walking on, they can, we can clip some tape together and
Yeah.
but yeah, right there behind Ohio Stadium is where all of our games and practices are held.
Have y'all ever showed up for a game and noticed, hey, the gate's open over there? Let's just go play in there. You know what I'm talking
We're
about.
trying not to get sued or arrested, so
Yeah.
we've usually stayed away from that. But it'd be great if we could get that access, but we're not holding our breath.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, if you can just get trickle down equipment, that's pretty good.
Oh, it's
leg up.
huge. I'm super grateful for that. I mean, that's a good set of shoulder pads. You're talking $200-300.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that we can supply those for our kids, Kevin Reese, their equipment guy over there, I can't thank him enough. And they've given us, other odds and ends too, chin straps that they haven't used or extras they have laid over. I mean, anything from helmet bumpers, practice jerseys they've given us in the past. So I can't thank them enough. They've really enhanced the club football experience there.
When you guys go on the road, do you have a charter? I mean, a bus, or do y'all
Usually it's
caravan
like
like
passenger
Hickory?
vans.
What?
It's usually like passenger vans, like Avis or Enterprise passenger vans. Get 12, 3 to 4 vans. Get 12 kids in a van plus coaches and go. Last year we had to go up and play Oakland University, just north of Detroit there, and that was a van trip. And then 2 years ago in the national semifinal, they were out at George Mason University, just outside of DC. So that was 8.5, 9-hour trip. That was a full weekend. Got in Friday night, played the game Saturday, and then left Sunday morning to come back to Columbus. So it's usually passenger vans. A charter bus can be a little more expensive because not only do you have, the bus, you got to pay the driver to stay too. So we usually drive ourselves and take the rental vans.
If you ever need a driver and I'm available, man, just let me know.
We'll take it.
Because I want to tell you something. The more you talk now, the more intrigued I am by this whole endeavor, because y'all play at an incredibly high level from the standpoint of expertise, et cetera. I mean, you're not just wasting people's money. And I would think, a little more success. I would think NIL possibilities might be in the offing for at least some of these guys, but I don't even know if you have to have an NIL deal per se, because y'all aren't really governed by any. How are y'all governed by an eligibility standpoint? I meaning, could some guy who's 35 years old show up and play for you as long as he's taking classes at Ohio State? How does that work?
If he's enrolled and our league counts years of football played. So I'll give you an example. So Praise Olatoke, who's had a cool story these last couple weeks, who was a track and field runner at Ohio State. He used up all his NCAA eligibility. So he couldn't play for Ohio State, or he couldn't transfer to another school and play. But our league only counts years of football played, and you get 5 years. You get 5 years to play.
Yeah.
So Praise decided, well, he wanted to try American football. He had never done it before. And, if you Google Praise Olatoke now, he just last weekend had a tryout with the Philadelphia Eagles, was part of the NFL's International Player Pathway Program. So the NCFA does monitor, years played. You get 5 years to play. So, we've gotten a couple graduate transfers before. One of our best stories is a guy on the team now by the name of Matt Humphreys, who's from Jackson, Ohio, kind of a smaller school, but he played 2 or 3 seasons at Robert Morris out in Pennsylvania, which FCS program. Had some injuries there, decided he was done with football, came to Ohio State, home state school, found us, and he's now obviously one of our best players as a defensive end and nose tackle. And he's got another year. He played for us last year, and he's got 1 year of eligibility left. And so we've had guys go on to D1 programs. We've had guys come back from D1 programs to play for us. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool in that regard that, again, we kind of have a really unique mix of talent, but we've got some really good kids.
Hey, James, if a guy puts in the effort, pays his money, you know what I mean? You know where I'm going. I'm not talking about youth soccer necessarily, but where everybody gets a medal at the end of the day. But unless they just really stink, do you try to get them in games? You understand what I'm saying? If you're putting in the effort. Plus, what was the size of your squad last year? In the 45 to 50 range, or how big was it?
I would say we operated closer to 35, 40 last year.
Oh, okay.
Our league caps our roster at 50, and that's again because you've got a really wide range of talent in club level. You've got club programs that might only have 20 to 25 guys, and they're just scraping by. And then you've got the 2 teams we've lost to the last 2 national championship years. They're basically JUCO programs. The team that we lost to in 2022, Gordon State, their running back had a PWO offer from Georgia, but just didn't have the grades to get in. So he went to Gordon State, ran all over us in the national championship game. And then the team we lost to this past season, Central Georgia Tech, has already moved up to the NJCAA, National Junior College Association. So we're playing some really, really good competition. So when we get into those games, just like any team, just like Ohio State's going to have to deal with now playing maybe 16 to 17 games, you've really got to be cognizant of who you're playing and when you're playing them, because it's a long season. They're playing 16, 17 games. We might only play 10 should we get to the national championship game, but we've only got a roster of 45, 50 kids.
Yeah.
So in those club games where we're playing other club competition, we definitely try to rotate as many guys in as we can. We've been fortunate to be up pretty big in some games, so we can get guys in and rotate players in. But when we get into those games where we're playing an NCAA school, like last year, we played Wittenberg, Denison, and Ohio Northern's JV programs. We're going to tighten up our rotations a little bit because we're playing better competition. But to your point, these kids are paying to play. They're putting in effort at practice 3 times a week, plus a 4th day devoted to film. So they're putting in a lot of work. So we want to get guys in as much as we can. And so earlier in the year, and when we're playing the club level programs, we try to rotate kids in as much as we can. But in those games we're playing NCAA competition, or we're getting into that national championship game where we're essentially playing a junior college with, real D1, D2 talented kids. That's where we've got to, really tighten down our rotations. And, if you watch our national championship game from last season, we had probably 3 or 4 guys going both ways, just because you got to play your best in those games. So, you usually don't see a lot of platoon football at the college level, but in those games for us, when you only have about 35, 40 guys to work with, it's kind of necessary.
And is it like 15-minute quarters? I mean, like
college
football?
It's all NCAA rules. The only real difference is there is a mercy rule in our league, a running clock rule. If you're up 35 or more in the second half, they just move to a running clock. But that's really the only big difference. Other than that, it's NCAA rules. There is the slight difference where I don't think our league, like this year at the D1 level, they're going to have, the 2-minute warning and that sort of thing. Our league isn't going to adopt that. There are certain things where it's going to be much more like older school college football that you're more used to. But for the most part, it's NCAA rules.
Why y'all aren't adopting it? Because you don't have a television network that wants one more big time 3-minute commercial break.
You're absolutely right. But we are fortunate enough. There's kind of a mom and pop streaming service that has reached out to us over the last couple of years. They've been live streaming our games since 2019. So most, if not all, of our home games are usually live streamed, and they were gracious enough to follow us on the road last year. So our national semifinal game was live streamed from the Glass Bowl, and our conference championship game. We had to travel up to Michigan State last year, and they played their home games in Ithaca, Michigan, which is another 45 minutes north of East Lansing, is
Yeah.
really up there. And they traveled all the way up and followed us, and they don't charge us a dime. They just, two retired guys who love football and love doing it. So we do get, if we play 10 games in a season, usually about 7-ish of them are going to be live streamed. So it's cool for our kids because a place like Ohio State, you get a lot of kids from out of state. And so their parents can't always make all the games. So it's cool that those games are live streamed and those parents get that opportunity to watch their kids play.
I'm gonna say Michigan State. They got that band. They got a band field right outside the stadium there. I mean, come on, Michigan State, step up.
Yeah,
Hey,
we had to travel for that game, but it
yeah.
was, I'll tell you what, the facilities at Ithaca High School, shout out Ithaca High School. They must win. I think they win state championships every year
Oh,
because
really?
it was a really small venue, but the nicest turf, brand new facilities. I mean, it was almost a 5-hour trip, but the facilities were fantastic.
I
So
was gonna say, yeah. That's like my old high school. Well, but this was a town of like 35, 40,000. Lufkin High School. They had an indoor facility, in Lufkin, Texas. Like I
yeah,
said, they could have filmed Friday Night Lights there in the same thing, but they had an indoor facility like 30, 35 years ago. You know what I mean? Because
that's
they give
impressive.
a damn about football down in Texas. I don't know if you know that or not, James.
A
By
little
the way,
bit.
do you recruit Texas?
We got a kid coming in this year. We got a freshman quarterback coming in just outside of Houston from
What's the name of the town? Do you remember?
Ooh, it was a private school.
Oh,
It was a
okay,
it
okay,
was a private school just outside of Texas. It was a small
yeah,
private school, but yeah,
yeah.
we got a kid coming in from Texas this year. And we get a lot of guys from like the Northeast. We've had a couple Jersey kids this past year. Had a couple kids from UMass, from Massachusetts, had a couple kids from upstate New York. Last year, California from Mater Dei, we had Glorian, and Chicago. We've got a few kids on our roster from Chicago as well. Kellen, who we talked about, was from Chicago. So yeah, we try to, obviously those kids are reaching out to us. Hey, I'm coming to Ohio State. What do I have to do to join the team? But we've got a pretty wide range of kids.
Even just saying that sentence just then, though, the one before, we've got a pretty wide range of kids. That's got to give you a little bit of goosebumps, right? I mean, the fact of what y'all built. I mean,
Yeah.
so quickly that people are seeking you out. That's gotta, you got to feel pretty. I know, you're not patting yourself on the back, but especially with the portico there in the background, or wherever, the rotunda in the background. But that's got to make you feel like, hey, I'm doing something here, right?
Well, it's cool, and it's really rewarding when you see a guy like Zach or Glory, and get that phone call to play for Ryan Day's program. Because as much as we're gonna miss those kids, on the field and off the field, they were both great kids. We're gonna miss them in our back end, our secondary, but ultimately, like that's what this program is for, and we're here to compete for championships. We've played for 4 straight national championships, and all the same things that the varsity program wants to do: compete for championships and win. But just like they want to develop guys for the NFL, we want to give our kids a platform to reach whatever their goals are. And it's like I said, it's kind of a wide range. It's we've got guys like Glorian and Zach who want to walk on, and they've got aspirations of doing that. We've got guys like Spencer Moore, who was our quarterback, who didn't get to play high school football. Hey, I want to, his goal is, hey, I just want to play football. I want to play college football and competitive college football. Flag football isn't enough for a kid like that who wants to compete at a high level. So, we provide an opportunity for a lot of kids from a lot of different backgrounds with different goals. But, at the end of the day, it's still a team sport. We're still competing for championships. But it is cool when you get to see, from all over the country come here, play together, and kind of chase their individual dreams, and then obviously the team goals of winning championships.
All right, give me one good story from the road, meaning the
Ooh,
night 3 of the 4 vans broke down, the day one of the vans decided to go on its own and not find the place, or the night y'all got to the hotel and it was listed as a 3-star, but it was really a 1-star, and not only because it had to give it some kind of star rating. Give me
yeah,
some little anecdote that people can understand the. I'm doing air quotes if you're just listening to this one. Understand the romance of club
yeah.
football.
There was a moment in the end of the 2022 season. We had again traveling all night. We didn't leave until probably 5 o'clock from Columbus to go to George Mason University, which is just outside of DC. Had to wait until the last kid got out of class because again, we don't get priority scheduling like the varsity program does. It's like you take your classes when you can take your classes.
Yeah.
So, um, we got in midnight, 1 o'clock, and the hotel that we had booked had all of our rooms, but they made every single, we took 40 kids plus coaches. So we took probably 50 people, made every single person sign their names, show ID. I think we got there at midnight, and I think the last person got their room at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that did not include the people waiting behind us to get their room. And so it was just, we're playing a national semifinal the next day. And, me as a head coach, I'm just worried about these kids getting their sleep and being ready to play the next day. And they ended up being ready to play the next day. That was probably the best football game we've played since I've been head coach. We were up 42-0 at the end of the first quarter and ended up winning 63-6 in a national semifinal game. So, all the things you worry about as a head coach, not only are they ready to play, did we put in the right game plan, all those things, but then you've got to worry, a varsity program, they've usually got somebody to worry about the logistics as the head
Yeah.
coach of a club program. I'm kind of in charge of all of it, but
I was going to say, man,
putting together schedule.
calling you a head coach is like really shortchanging you. By the way, how many coaches do you have staff wise? And they're all volunteer like you, right?
Yeah. I think when I started in 2018, I only had a staff of about 3 to 4, including myself. I think this past year we had closer to 8 to 10 assistant coaches. So very similar to what you would have at a D2, D3 program. We don't have the low-level support staffers, but we had a position coach for almost every unit. Some guys had a double dip. Sometimes the DB coach is also the wide receivers coach.
Sure.
I myself I was a quarterback for the team, so I coached the quarterbacks and called the offense. But we had a staff, I think, close to 10 last year. And we've got a staff of close to 10 coming back. So, but again, and I would say probably half of those guys are guys who played in the program and got jobs in Columbus. And again, just guys who are super passionate about football, A, but B, just super passionate about the program and what it stands for and the opportunities we have, and guys who want to stay a part of it and want to be around it. So we still got a staff of about 8 to 10 guys, and those guys are putting in, again, when we're in season, off season for club football is a lot lighter than off season for a D2 or D3 or D1 coach. But when we're in season, man, it's a full-time job. Because you got to be preparing and watching film and putting in a game plan and all these things. We don't have the facilities to be holding, unit meetings and all that. So sometimes it's Zoom calls, or sometimes it's getting to the practice field early and meeting with your position unit just before practice to go over whatever the installs are going to be for that day. And, but yeah, I'm very, very grateful and very appreciative of my assistant coaches, because again, they're not getting paid to do this, and they're putting in a lot of work. My defensive line coach, Coach McNeil, who's a St. Charles graduate, local guy, was out there with me yesterday morning at DeSales at 6 a.m. For a recruiting visit. And he, that's not something he had to do, but he loves the program and he loves doing it. So he was out there with me. So
it's incredible.
Really cool.
Hey, real quick before we go, also support staff. Do you have a trainer for games, or do you have a medical person? How is it? Because I would think, of all things, that's probably where the jeopardy could really untrack you. You know what I mean? From an insurance standpoint or whatever. But yeah, just from, are you required to have insurance, et cetera? How does that work?
So every student, whether you play sports or not, if you're enrolled at Ohio State, you either have to adopt Ohio State's health insurance plan or have your own.
Just like when I moved up here from Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. So every student has their own. And then the university does provide us with trainers twice a week at practice, and then for home games. The club sports department at Ohio State partners with the Med Center. So usually, how we do practice is we'll have 2 contact padded practices a week, and then we'll have a third practice that's just helmets only. Kind of a walkthrough like you would, on like a Friday, a Thursday, like if you're a high school program. So we have trainers at all of our padded practices and games. And then our league, the NCFA, requires that the home team provides, a certified athletic trainer at every game. So if you're the home team, you're required to provide at least 1, if not 2, certified athletic trainers. So yeah, we've got them there. Very grateful for their work. We've been working with a lot of the same people since I've been head coach from the Wexner Medical Center, and they do a great job taking care of our kids. They even have open injury checks if guys have a bump or a bruise that they want checked before practice. They can go to the RPAC there and get looked at before practice. And then, obviously the trainers are there during practice. So if they want to go, in between drills, if before practice, preferably, to get taped up or something, our kids have access to that as well.
Yeah, and real quick before we go, y'all play your home games. You play your games usually on what day of the week?
We usually play Sunday afternoons, more often
Go
than
ahead.
not.
Wait, you decided to go head to head with the NFL, right? Go
That's
ahead.
right. That's right, man. That's right. Sundays at noon. That's our sweet spot. I mean, a lot of times, because obviously campus shuts down on a college football Saturday,
Yeah.
when Ohio State is home. So if we have a home game the same week as them, we're going to play Sunday afternoon at our place. But we also play a lot of Sunday road games because we're scheduling now a lot of these NCAA JV programs. Wittenberg and Denison last year, and then Ohio Northern. Actually, last year, Ohio Northern, we played them on a Wednesday night, which was super interesting to get guys out of class and then drive 2 hours up to Ada
Yeah.
to play a football game. But we did it and we won. So, but usually I would say 9 times out of 10, we're playing on Sundays. I know this year, Ohio State has an early bye week, I think September 14th, which is actually our week 1. So we are going to try to play a home Saturday game to give our kids that opportunity. But I would say 9 times out of 10, we're playing on a Sunday afternoon.
Hey, and y'all have what's your website? So people,
Yeah.
if they're interested, not only can get on there and check the schedule, but also is there admission? Well, first give the website. Is there an admission charge for coming to your home games?
No, games are free. If you've ever been over there by Lincoln Tower Park, right behind the horseshoe there, right by Buckeye Grove and all that,
Yeah.
it's an open field, so we don't charge admission to our games. Our games are free, so we'd love to have some great turnouts. Our website is osuclubfootball.com. Really simple. Recruits can go there, fill out a recruitment form. We're an entirely self-funded program, so we're always looking for donations, people who want to pay it forward. The Ohio State rugby team, for example, is a club program, and they've been around since the 60s, and they've got donors who, are retired now, and they've got a budget probably 10 times what ours is. Our oldest alumni are barely pushing 40, so a lot of guys don't have money to give yet, but
Yeah.
we're an entirely self-funded program. So if you go to our website, get recruited, check out our roster, check out our schedule. We'd love to have great crowds at our games. And but yeah, osuclubfootball.com is where you can find us.
You've been around me a long time. I say one more question, but I usually have 4 more, but I'm just going to ask you one more, I promise, even though I've said that 10 minutes ago. What's your aspiration?
Yeah.
I mean, you have clearly shown the acumen and the ability to not just know football, but to know how to put together a football program from the roots all the way to the tip top of the tree, because you've won 2 national championships. You've shown the ability to recruit. Obviously, you have a great personality. I don't know if I threw that in there earlier or not, but what is your aspiration, James?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, one day I'd love to be a full-time college football coach. I love what I do. Obviously, I think my passion for what I do at the club level comes across. But the goal is one day to be a full-time college football coach. At what level? Obviously, I'm a competitor. I want to be at the highest level. It'd be great to be a D1 college football coach someday. And if the phone rings, I'm happy to. I would be very excited to take that phone call. But what I'm doing now is great. I'm still very passionate about it. It's the program I played for. It gave me an opportunity to play college football when I thought my football career was over in high school. And that's an opportunity that it gives for a lot of kids. So I love the mission of our program and what it stands for. But my personal aspirations are to one day, take that next step whenever that opportunity comes and be a major college football coach. And I'm well aware that, I'm going to have to work my way up, but that's something that I'm willing to do, because ultimately that's the goal is to take that next step whenever that opportunity comes, and just kind of work my way up the ranks. And I love Ohio, and I know there's a lot of great programs here in the state of Ohio. So whether it be D3, D2, D1, NAIA, whatever it is, ultimately I know that call is going to come at some point down the road. But for right now, I love what I do, and we've got a great group of kids that we're getting ready to. We just finished spring ball ourselves, and summer workouts are starting. So that's really where the focus is now, and just making sure those kids are ready to go.
Well, anybody can take a golfer and turn him into a starting quarterback. I mean, they throw that on your resume and then throw on the
Yeah.
resume. Hey, you Division III schools. I don't know if you noticed, but uh, I've been bringing some teams onto your campus and whipping your junior varsity. So, I don't know if you noticed that or not. I mean, I don't know if you need somebody to do your PR for you, but I've tried to give you an hour's worth. What do you think about that, James?
Oh, I really appreciate it. I mean, that's another thing I guess I could add to my resume is SID, because if you go on our website, I'm still writing the game recaps on
Yeah,
on Monday afternoons. I'm writing so I'm keeping my sports writing acumen up a little bit.
yeah. I
Uh,
want to go back and just read the few losses. I mean, by the way, what's your this isn't for you to brag, but what is your record? Your record is ridiculous, isn't it? Isn't it
um,
Urban Meyer like?
I don't know if it's that good. I don't know if it's that good. I think since I took over, I believe we are 37-6.
Yeah, 37-6. I want to go back and read some of those recaps of those losses, despite a spirited effort and great coaching,
Yeah, right.
Tom. Hey, by the way, what do y'all call yourselves the Buckeyes or what?
Yep. Yep, we are the Buckeyes. Now we're very limited in what we can use as far as signature, logos
Of
and things.
course.
We're
Yeah.
allowed to use the block O. We're allowed to use the block O on jerseys and stuff, but that's about where it stops. But
It's funny.
we do use Buckeyes.
It's funny. Y'all are now more what college football romantically was thought to be than major college football is now,
Yeah.
as you well know, with NIL, transfer portal, right on down the line, quarterbacks making $1 million or more a year, et cetera. It's pretty funny that it has come to that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we're in that era.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, and that's the thing is like when you come to one of our games, there might only be 100, 150, 200 people there. But I mean, you're going to watch 45, 50 kids that absolutely love ball and coaches that love ball. And, um, you know, again, it's my favorite atmosphere we've ever played in. We went to Ohio Northern last year on a Wednesday night. And if you go to Ada, Ohio, outside of the university, Ohio Northern University, there's not much out in Ada,
Been
Ohio.
there, been there.
And we played on a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, and the stands weren't full, but we had a couple hundred out there on a Wednesday night to watch our kids play.
Yeah.
And to give our kids that opportunity to play a college football game under the lights against a good quality opponent, it was a great experience. So, and to be able to win that game by as much as we did, that's probably my favorite memory from last season. But yeah, it's great that we're able to give those opportunities to our guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Don't come back. No, I'm just joking. Hey, James Grega, man, thanks for joining the Tim May Show, man. I knew this was going to be a blast, and it was. And this is one of those evergreen kind of shows that I like to do where you can listen to this next January and still get entertained by it, because it is amazing what you do with just a little bit. You know what I mean? You don't have to have, water wall and everything else. You just got to have guys that love ball, and that's what you've got going on. And it's really funny how this thing has mushroomed into guys asking you to play instead of vice versa. I mean, and we're talking about quality football players, not, there's a lot of guys who aspire, but they're like me, tall, skinny, and slow. You know what I mean? So, but congratulations to you on what you've done and what's to come, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tim. Really appreciate you having me on.
And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Tim May. We'll see you then.